This is a story worth remembering, and the story starts now. The story you're about to hear is more than a breach of numbers or data. It's a breach of trust. Not just any trust, your trust. 147 million Americans, each one a name, a life, a story. Today you'll learn the tale of the day nearly half of America lost its secrets.
Credit reporting company Equifax.
Credit monitoring company Equifax.
Massive personal data breach, Equifax.
Chapter 1, July 29, 2017. A quiet Saturday morning. In a sterile, fluorescent-lit office building in Atlanta, Georgia, a single cybersecurity alert sends shockwaves through an unsuspecting team. What they've just discovered will change the course of consumer trust in America forever. But this isn't where the story begins. Oh no. While Americans slept, their secrets were slipping away, digit by digit. Thieves were already inside what should have been an impenetrable fortress, lurking, waiting. Inside these walls, Equifax held the keys to America's financial kingdom: social security numbers, birth dates, driver's licenses, addresses, and more. A treasure trove worth billions to those lurking in the dark web, but even more valuable than money was trust. And in the spring of 2017, that trust was about to be shattered by a single overlooked software vulnerability, a vulnerability that would go unpatched for 76 critical days. In the next hour, you'll uncover how this catastrophic breach happened. You'll meet the whistleblowers who saw the warning signs, the executives who failed to act, and the millions whose lives were irrevocably altered. Most importantly, you'll learn why this story matters now more than ever. And now, this story worth remembering. In 1899, while most Americans were still traveling by horse and buggy, two brothers, Cater and Guy Wolford, noticed something peculiar about the way businesses operated in Atlanta, Georgia. You see, merchants were sharing lists, handwritten lists, of customers who wouldn't pay their bills. And in those simple sheets of paper, they saw opportunity. What began as the retail credit company in a small Atlanta office would become something else entirely. Something that would one day hold the financial DNA of nearly every American adult. But I'm getting ahead of myself. By the 1920s, the company had offices in 37 states. But here's what most people don't know. These weren't just credit reports. Oh no. Their agents would investigate every aspect of a person's life. Their marriage, their health, their habits, their morals. In fact, by 1960, they had files on millions of Americans, many of whom had no idea they were being watched. But in 1970, something happened that would change everything. Congress passed the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and suddenly the watchers were being watched. In 1975, the company changed its name to Equifax. Equi for equity, fax for facts. But the facts about to emerge in our story are anything but equitable. As computers replaced filing cabinets, Equifax grew and grew and grew. By the dawn of the 21st century, they were one of three companies that controlled America's credit reporting industry. Three companies that knew more about you than your own mother. They knew when you paid your mortgage, when you missed a car payment, when you applied for a credit card. By 2017, Equifax held the personal information of 820 million consumers and 91 million businesses worldwide. But with great power should have come great responsibility. And now, the part of the story they don't want you to know. Because on a spring day in 2017, while Equifax's servers hummed with the digital heartbeats of millions of Americans' most sensitive data, someone, somewhere, found a door, left unlocked. A door that should have been sealed tight. A door that would lead to the largest data breach in history. March 7th, 2017, a Tuesday, in Apache Software Foundation's offices, engineers hit send on an urgent security alert, a critical vulnerability in Apache Struts, a popular web application framework. The message was clear: patch immediately. But in Atlanta, somebody wasn't listening. Now, what happened next would haunt Equifax's executives for years to come. You see, while other companies rushed to patch their systems, Equifax waited and waited and waited. But that's not the whole story. Now, oh no. Inside Equifax's walls, dedicated security professionals had been raising red flags for months, years even, about outdated systems, about inadequate protocols, about the disaster waiting to happen. In 2015, 2 years before the breach, an internal security audit revealed critical vulnerabilities in Equifax systems. The report used words like grossly inadequate and severely out of date, but these warnings gathered dust. March became April. April became May. The patch remained unapplied, but somewhere in the digital shadows, someone had already noticed Equifax's open door, and they were about to walk right in. May 13th, 2017. The first intrusion. Like thieves in the night, they entered through that unpatched vulnerability. But unlike ordinary thieves, they didn't take anything. Yet, they were building their own private doorway into Equifax's crown jewels. For 76 days, these digital intruders moved freely through Equifax systems. They were patient, methodical, professional, and completely undetected. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. While the largest data breach in history was underway, Equifax's executives were focused on something else entirely. They were planning a new product launch, a product designed to protect consumers from identity theft. The warning signs were there. The sirens were blaring. But sometimes, the most obvious dangers are the ones we choose not to see. And in the summer of 2017, Equifax was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The moment when everything changed, July 29th, 2017. A security engineer's routine scan reveals something unusual, something that would turn this story from a cautionary tale into a national emergency. The moment of discovery arrived on a sweltering Atlanta afternoon. A security engineer's routine scan revealed something that made their blood run cold. The crown jewels of American financial data were being extracted. But what happened next? Well, that's where this story takes a truly disturbing turn. Within hours, Equifax top executives were notified, but the American people, they wouldn't learn about this catastrophe for another 40 days. And during those 40 days, well, that's when things get interesting. But wait, there's more. While millions of Americans' most sensitive data was in the hands of unknown criminals, Equifax executives were doing something peculiar. They were preparing a website, not to warn consumers. Oh no, this website was designed to sell credit monitoring services to the very people whose data they had failed to protect. August became September. And finally, on September 7th, 2017, Equifax did what they should have done 40 days earlier. They told the public.
As you're probably aware, earlier today, we announced a cybersecurity incident that has impacted those who rely on us to protect their personal information. I want to take a few minutes to talk with you about it and make sure you have the facts.
The numbers were staggering. 147 million Americans. Names, addresses, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, credit card numbers, birth dates. Everything a criminal would need to steal someone's identity. Everything. But the company's response? Well, that's where this story goes from tragedy to farce. First, they created a website to help consumers check if they were affected. One small problem: the website didn't work.
The fact that your official Twitter account mistakenly tweeted a phishing link 4 times instead of the company's actual breach response page. I mean, even if I want to try to give you the benefit of the doubt of sloppy cyber hygiene and somebody made a mistake and you didn't find until after the fact and there were mistakes made, when this was all known.
Then they offered free credit monitoring through their own subsidiary. And the terms of service initially included a clause waiving consumers' right to sue. But the most chilling part of this story, the data, that precious, sensitive data, has never been found. Not for sale on the dark web, not used in mass identity theft schemes. It just vanished. Which leads to the question that keeps cybersecurity experts awake at night. Who has this data, and what are they waiting for? Because what happened next would reshape not just Equifax, but the entire landscape of corporate accountability in the digital age. September 7th, 2017. As the news broke, panic spread across America. 147 million people, nearly half the U.S. population, scrambling to protect their identities. Within days, Equifax's stock price plunged 35%, over $6 billion in market value, gone. But for consumers, the nightmare was just beginning. Then came the summons from Congress.
Good morning. The Subcommittee on Digital Commerce and Consumer Protection will come to order. The chair now recognizes himself for 5 minutes for an opening statement. Good morning. Today we're here to get the facts to learn what happened at Equifax that led to the personal information of over 143 million Americans' information being stolen. Americans deserve to know what Equifax is doing to fix the problem and help individuals that are impacted. We must find out what happened. The public deserves to know what happened and what steps are being taken to protect their sensitive data going forward.
Equifax executives would face the music, or at least try to explain how they lost half of America's most sensitive data.
As you might guess, over the past month or so, I've talked to many consumers and read their letters, and I understand how frustrated and fearful many Americans are about the breach that happened at Equifax. Americans have the right to know how this happened. I'm prepared to testify today about what I learned and what I did about the incident in my role as CEO and chairman of the board. And also, I want what I've learned about the incident since being briefed by the company's investigation, which is ongoing. We now know that this criminal attack was made possible by a combination of a human error and a technological error. The human error involved a failure to apply a software patch to our dispute portal in March of 2017. The technological error involved a scanner which failed to detect the vulnerability on this particular portal, which had not been patched. Both errors have since been addressed. On July 29th and July 30th, suspicious activity was detected. We followed our security incident response protocol at that time. The team immediately shut down the portal and began our internal security investigation. On August 2nd, we hired top cybersecurity, forensic, and legal experts, and we notified the FBI. At that time, we did not know the nature or the scope of the incident. It was not until late August that we concluded that we had experienced a major breach. Over the weeks leading up to September 7th, our team continued working around the clock to prepare to make things right.
The public's verdict was swift and merciless. Equifax breach became the rally cry for a digital revolt. Credit freezes overwhelmed the system. Call centers collapsed under the volume. The immediate price tag for Equifax, $1.4 billion in the first quarter alone. But the real costs to their reputation, to consumer trust, to the very fabric of financial security, those were just beginning to emerge. As the dust settled on these initial shockwaves, a deeper question emerged. How could this happen? And more importantly, could it happen again? Beyond the headlines and immediate chaos, the Equifax breach exposed something far more troubling: fundamental flaws in America's credit reporting system. The credit reporting industry's architecture revealed systemic vulnerabilities that went far beyond Equifax. The economic repercussions spread like wildfire, and insurance premiums skyrocketed. Banks faced increased fraud risks. The cost of credit monitoring services soared by 300%. The ripples spread globally. International financial institutions began questioning their reliance on U.S. credit reporting systems. The breach had exposed not just data, but the fragility of the entire global credit infrastructure. The numbers tell a stark story. Industry-wide cybersecurity spending increased by 400%. Compliance costs doubled. The total economic impact, estimated at over $10 billion and counting. But perhaps the most significant change was in understanding. The industry finally recognized that data security wasn't just an IT problem, it was a fundamental business risk that could destroy companies overnight. But beyond the systems and numbers lay something even more fundamental: the human cost and the moral questions that would haunt the industry for years to come. Behind every data point, behind every breached record, there was a human story. The Equifax breach wasn't just a technical failure, it was a moral one. The question that haunted investigators: how did a company entrusted with so much become so complacent?
As you know, this is a sample of a copy of an Equifax credit report in my hand. It lists Social Security numbers, address, credit history, debts, all the sort of personal financial information. It's the lifeblood of Equifax, right? I mean, these data points are really, really important to what you do as a company.
Congressman, that's correct.
It's a $3 billion company, data on 820 million customers worldwide, and yet it appears this breach happened because the company didn't know it was running certain software on its system, right? The Apache Strut software that had the patch requirement.
Yeah, Congressman, as I alluded to in my opening comments and the written testimony, there was a human error and a technology error that did not allow us to identify.
And I think that's what we're trying to get to here. If I understand it right, your own information technology system did not tell the Equifax security division that the Apache Strut software, which contained the vulnerability that led to this breach, was running on the Equifax system. How did that happen?
Congressman, the day after the notification came out from CERTS, the security team notified a wide range of people in the technology team who were responsible for then finding the patch, finding the vulnerability, applying the patch, and then days later, as is typical protocol, to deploy a technology scanner to then go look for the vulnerability, find the vulnerability. If it found a vulnerability, it knew it was not patched. Both the human deployment of the patch and the scanning deployment did not work. But the protocol was followed.
Okay, so then people ask us, how does that happen?
The breach exposed a disturbing truth. Cybersecurity wasn't just a technical challenge, but a moral one. Companies had become guardians of our digital identities without accepting the ethical burden that came with it. The breach forced us to confront uncomfortable questions about trust, responsibility, and the moral obligations of corporations in the digital age. As the ethical dust settled, one question remained: how could trust be rebuilt in a system that had failed so fundamentally? Rebuilding trust after one of the largest data breaches in history wasn't just about fixing systems. It required a complete organizational transformation. The changes began at the top: a new board structure.
In the wake of the Equifax massive data breach, the company's CEO Richard Smith has stepped down effective immediately. Smith's statement says he believes it's in the best interest of the company to have new leadership. The hack, which compromised up to 143 million Americans, was the result of a security flaw that was never patched, but first discovered back in March.
Independent security oversight, direct reporting lines for cybersecurity teams to the board. The numbers tell the story: $1.5 billion invested in security infrastructure, 2,000 new cybersecurity personnel, a 500% increase in security testing. While consumer trust has improved by 65% since the breach, Equifax acknowledges that rebuilding trust is a journey, not a destination. But as Equifax rebuilt, the broader question remained: what lessons could the entire industry learn from this watershed moment? The Equifax breach wasn't just a corporate failure, it became a watershed moment that transformed cybersecurity practices across industries. The lessons of Equifax have become the foundation for a more secure future, but only if we remain vigilant and continue to learn. As we look to the future, the question becomes, how do we maintain this heightened awareness and continue to evolve our defenses? As the sun rises over Atlanta, casting its first light on the Equifax headquarters, we're reminded that even the darkest moments can lead to new beginnings. The Equifax breach of 2017 wasn't just a cautionary tale, it became a catalyst for transformation. Like a digital Pearl Harbor, it forever changed the landscape of data security. Today, companies worldwide have strengthened their defenses. What was once unthinkable has become standard practice. The lessons, though hard-learned, have made us all safer. Consumers are more aware, more protected, and more empowered. The breach awakened a collective consciousness about the value of our digital identities. From Atlanta to Amsterdam, from Sydney to Singapore, new protocols and protections stand guard over our personal information. The world learned that data security isn't just a technical issue, it's a fundamental human right. As we look to the future, we see not just better technology, but better understanding. Not just stronger walls, but wiser guardians. The Equifax breach reminds us that in our digital age, trust must be earned every day, with every byte of data, with every transaction. It's a responsibility that belongs to all of us. As this new day dawns, we carry forward these lessons. Eternal vigilance is the price of security. Every piece of personal data is precious. Trust, once broken, must be rebuilt, brick by digital brick. The future belongs to those who learn from the past. The Equifax breach changed everything. But perhaps its greatest legacy is this. It taught us that in our connected world, we are all guardians of each other's digital lives. And that's a story worth remembering. Thank you for joining us on A Story Worth Remembering. If this story touched your heart, inspired you, or made you reflect, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment below with your favorite moment or lesson from today's episode. Subscribe to our channel for more unforgettable stories that inspire and uplift. Don't forget to smash the bell so you never miss a tale worth remembering. And if you enjoyed this, please like the video. It helps us share these stories with more people. Together, let's keep the art of storytelling alive. See you in the next story.